Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver, played with the Redskins in the NFL, sideline analyst for Baylor Radio, joins us on 365 Sports. Ricky, thanks for your time with Paul Craig. I'm David Smoke. Ricky was at the scrimmage Saturday evening. I was there, but it was afterwards, and Ricky wanted to kind of pick your brain. What did you see? And I know it's still early with so many moving parts and the transfers, et cetera. New offensive coordinator. What did you see?
Well, I think, Smoke, it's always tough for me to judge a scrimmage when you're going against your own guys. And I think, first of all, you don't know, is the offense scripted or do they have the option to adjust through the scrimmage when sending plays in? I think that's a huge difference. I know we had a lot of guys out. I thought the defense looked much better than the offense did. Offensive line, I thought, struggled. Again, it's hard to know if that's partly because they couldn't adjust or they were scripted and had to stick with the play that was called. I think defensive line, guys, I don't know. This may be the best one we've had in a while. When we go back to Apu and what he had in the middle and what he meant to that D-line, of course, he was backed up with some pretty good guys with Terrell Bernard and Jalen Petrie too. But I just think maybe up front we've got some depth that may be pretty productive up front. I was really pleased with that. I don't think we got to see a lot from the receivers outside. That was hard to judge because I think quarterbacks didn't have a lot of time. Just so hard to tell in a scrimmage. I'm ready for a Saturday, to tell you the truth.
I bet you are. Richard Carr Motors, one of the sponsors of our Baylor Bear Hotline. In this segment with J.J. Joe or Ricky Thompson, Alliance Bank, Central Texas, where customers have confidence their financial needs are in good hands. Paul?
Ricky, the quarterbacks have not separated themselves yet, and they're getting down to, where they got to make a decision. From what you saw, does one provide a distinct advantage over another outside of maybe DeQuan Finn's athleticism?
No, I didn't see that in practice. And again, Paul, I'll go back to, is it the question of a scripted offense, or is it a question of not much time, or all of the above? I think pure throwing motion, I think Sawyer's probably ahead of Finn, just to the way he delivers the ball. I think there's no question that as far as feet and escapability and the ability to make a play when things blow up, Finn's head and shoulders above Sawyer in that regard, which doesn't mean he's necessarily a better quarterback. But I think maybe with this team early till they get this offensive line adjusted, maybe the advantage goes to Finn just because of that speed. You can't teach 21 miles an hour and running ability. That's either you have it or you don't. You guys may have seen some of the tape from the Ohio State game last year. I thought Finn made two incredible runs against a really good football team on the road. So I think with that advantage, I'm going to be surprised if he's not the starter. And I think you give him the ability to either play into that position and keep it or play his way out of it. We'll see.
With all of the new faces, both on the roster and on the sidelines, did anything in terms of just kind of the demeanor, the confidence levels, the energy levels? I know sometimes we can blow those things out of proportion, especially talking about a practice, Ricky, but did you get a sense that you were watching a different team that was much different from what you saw maybe a year ago?
Craig, yes. The answer to that is easy, yes. I think that the confidence level, I think that the attitude, I think that's just the feeling you get, and I know that sounds crazy. I'm not exaggerating. I just can't think the feeling you get around the guys and the coaches, there's no comparison. I think there's a dramatic change there. I think that can reflect into a football game too, with just attitude and, maybe even a little bit of meanness. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Have to maybe check these guys to see which one has a knife in their sock. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you've got some guys out there that'll hurt you. And I think that's something that we've been missing, and that's pretty exciting to me. And I'll tell you something that's different, and we laugh about this, but they look different getting off the bus. I mean, if you could just stop the game after you get off the bus, these dudes look like players. I mean, you've got 6'7", 6'8" offensive linemen that weigh 320 pounds. D-line guys are huge. Some of these transfers in look like dudes. And I think the speed level out there this year is different too. There's some things that give you a chance that you didn't have last year, and I think that's pretty exciting. Now, it's got to gel. You got to put it together, and you got to block up front. But I think there's some opportunity, and I think particularly this defensive front seven could be really good. Outside, you've got a ton of speed. There's some exciting things, and just getting back to the spread and what Texas high schools run, what 95% of the high schools in Texas run this offense in some form or fashion or some version. And that, to me, as an old receiver, is pretty exciting. But even on both sides of the ball, I just think there's opportunities that we didn't have last year.
I saw a comment from Kyler Jordan. It was after one of the practices this week where he mentioned you said something about that meanness, but he also said they're tired. He was a part of last year. They got sick of what happened, and they had to deal with it throughout the offseason. What is the difference, Ricky, though, as a player yourself, in saying that you're tired of losing? That seems to be kind of a default, and actually doing something about it.
Well, I hate to go all the way back to the time when I played, but we are having a 50-year celebration. Guys, that just doesn't sound right. But it's 50 years from a team that was 2-9 to one that won the conference title year over year. And I think the difference there is, first of all, it's got to be an attitude going into the year. But then you got to win some games. You just got to perform on the field. You can talk all you want to talk, but ultimately it comes down to you got to win games. And I think if you win some early and some difficult ones early, then I think things start to roll, just like 21. You won some games early, really close games that could have gone either way. But I think this year in particular, with what's happened last year and the players they've added, that this team needs early success. And that means winning games. I don't mean just playing well. I think you have to win games. And pretty tough road. You got one on the road against Utah. You got one on the road against Colorado. But you know what? I think you got to win one of those two. And you got to beat Air Force at home, obviously. Get off to a 3-1 start, then you never know from there.
How do you see the coaching dynamics different? With Dave Aranda calling calling the defense, Matt Powledge and kind of back into the developmental role of getting him to be that defensive coordinator. It's completely different than anything we've seen Dave do here as opposed to before he got here when he was at LSU.
Yeah, it is. And I think maybe that's some of the advantages of Patterson being here through the spring. Just anything that Dave could get out of him that helps with the fact of being a head coach and also calling plays. But, you got to remember, too, it may be unusual for us. It may be unusual for Dave, but it's not uncommon for a head coach to either be on the offensive or the defensive end of the play calling. And I like it. I think it gets him more involved. I think that obviously that's his strong point as coordinator. If you listen to these guys talk to, even on the sideline, they're talking about things that they've worked on in practice, and not only saying you got to be here on this call, but I think Dave's telling them why you got to be here and what everybody else is doing, not just when you've got to be there, but why you've got to be there. And I think that makes a huge difference, and I think it's going to make a difference in his demeanor during the game. We've heard him say he gets pissed off more often. You know what? That's okay. I think that's great. And I just think a little bit of that emphasis on let's play hard, let's play mean, that makes a difference. And Spav on the offensive side too. I mean, these guys are really motivated to produce. And I love the fact that Dave's coordinating the defense. I think that was absolutely something that needed to happen.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are excited for that. And, hey, man, when you've got the pressure up, might as well put it in your own hands, right, especially with what you know best. So that's going to be very, very interesting. Ricky, you're a former wide receiver. Did anything from that group that's had a very interesting combination? There's the veterans that need to further emerge, Ketron Jackson, guys like that. There's the transfers like Ashton Hawkins that have brought a bit of excitement and some new faces. There's some young guys as well, like a Jaden Porter. But did anything from the receiver room really stick out to you as an old receiver yourself at all?
A couple things. Of course, Hal Presley was out the other day, but I thought he's really looked good in practice. He's got size. I think finally maybe he's coming into a guy that can be. Remember, guys who got him out of Auburn, that we lost him early and got him back, and I think he's got the ability to be great. You've got Josh Cameron, who looks like a big running back out there or a linebacker, and I think he's got to be the ability to be really good. Ketron obviously has the size and the ability to go up and get the ball. He's that kind of guy. More speed out there than normal, but I'm telling you, Ashton Hawkins, this guy is 165 pounds, 170.
Yeah.
He can fly. And if you look the size of his hands, I mean, I've seen him twice reach up and just snatch a ball like you would expect from a big dude. I just really look for him to have a good year. They've just got to figure out ways to get him the ball, get it to him in space, let him make runs after the catch. But they've got some guys out there that can really make plays, and I think that's something we missed last year as well. Just you didn't see enough big plays outside where a kid catches the ball and then takes it for 20 or 25 yards after he catches it. And I think they've got some out there that can do that this year. You just got to get it to them in space, and with this offense, that's what it's designed to do, is get those guys in space with the ball.
Yeah, they couldn't spread anybody last year. And then on top of that, make it worse, they couldn't run the football, which that's debatable of what they can do that this year. Hopefully opening it up a little bit allows them to do that. So which comes first? Back when they ran those teams that won Big 12 titles up until the 21 team that did too, they would spread you out and then they'd hit you in the gut with that running game back when Coach Briles had that run. Which in this particular offense do you feel like will come first, that they have to do that too and then hit you in the gut, or what?
Well, I know that what they want to come first is the run, which is surprising when you hear the spread offense, but they want the run to come first. I think in this case, with a developing offensive line and really not knowing which of these guys is going to be playing where, they'll figure that out. But I think you may see the passing game first, which is okay. I think if you do see it, you'll see a lot of short stuff, slip screens, hitches, quick slants, and then I think you'll see much more deep ball presentations, or at least attempts. And I think that's really good, really important for this offense. Hopefully that opens up the run. But I think until this offensive line gels a little bit, the running game may be tough. I would be surprised if it's not. But the good thing is you've got the ability to spread them out, put four guys wide outside that can run the football. And when you do that, it's tough to just zone up against them, which should open up some ability to run the ball. They've been running Pendergrass number one lately. Mm-hmm. That may be because of his ability to have a little bit of size in there. And I tell you, he's got a lot more vision than you would think out of a big guy. 2 or 3 of his touchdown runs last year I thought were strictly on vision, and that's out of a true freshman. That's the thing. That's the stuff that you can't coach.
Yeah, you think maybe he's got some strength that the arm tackles, if that extra inch or two of space maybe allows him to break, and then you have Richardson and Reese and others that are going to be a part of that too. Ricky, look forward to having you on. Thank you so much for what you do for us in 365 Sports, but also the knowledge from your perspective too.
Yeah, guys, look forward to talking to you all again.
Thank you. Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver, NFL receiver, played with Joe Theismann in Washington, and now, it has been for quite some time, the sideline analyst for Baylor Radio.
I keep saying this. We need to get Joe back on the show again, because I loved talking to Joe every
He's
time.
He's kind of gone quiet. I hope everything's okay with him.
Yeah,
but
he was
quiet. Yeah.
He was also my favorite Radio Row person because you could walk up and say, "Hey, who's your runner?" And he's like, "I don't have a runner."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll come back.
Yeah, and he was very much in demand too, because he's first of all an incredible interview, great segment with him, and also a lot of great stories to tell too.
Yeah, that's a nice combo with Ricky, and I'm glad to start talking to him again on a more regular basis, and I'm sure JJ, Joe, and the rest of the cast and crew. But man, looking forward to football. But this O-line ain't much better, boys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to tank everything else, and I know there's an element of that offensive line that feels like they're gearing up and they're ready to go and prove it here in a couple of weeks, and maybe that they're they're getting a little bit disrespected. But I mean, what else you can only look at what you got in front of you, and what we got on paper is a lot of question marks. So soon those will be answered, but I really hope they're better than the worst case scenario, because otherwise that could spider web and cause so many problems to the point of all the way to the top. If they can't, have a functioning offense on a regular basis. So yeah, good to hear, a lot of the other things that he had to say about, guys looking good getting off the bus, which some people would say, well, that's every year. Actually, no, that hasn't been said for a couple of years around here, quite frankly. So that's actually something that's different. The energy, the talk around practice, all of that seems improved, but that offensive line is going to have to be improved from last year to ensure that this team can meet its highest goals. But we'll see again in a couple of weeks. That's clearly, though, when you talk Baylor, the biggest, most glaring issue that this team has, and everything else I think you feel pretty okay about.